here's why I'm excited right now when it comes to Hedera. We have to take a look at not too long ago. According to Token Terminal, Hedera was ranked number 2 in core protocol developers amongst all layer 1s. This is very impressive in my opinion because we got to think about this, right? We have to consider what Hedera overtook, right? What it kind of beat in order to achieve this ranking, at least allegedly. It didn't beat out something like, for instance, Chainlink, the Internet Computer. We take a look at Cardano, which is a very popular layer 1 blockchain, and also Cosmos, or should I say in this case Cosmos Hub, but again, I refer to it as Cosmos. Cosmos is also very popular. So imagine what Hedera has been able to do as of late. This is something that I find very impressive because when we think about Hedera, sometimes people think, oh, Hedera hash graph, it's a directed acyclic graph. They think that, okay, it's kind of different than traditional blockchain technology. They think, oh, no one's really going to want to develop or anything like that. But really, I think Hedera is kind of showcasing, at least through these stats, in my opinion, that it's beginning to be considered as one of these projects that are kind of established. And I think it kind of gives more recognition to a directed acyclic graph and kind of showcasing that, you know what, there might be other alternatives other than just, let's say, traditional blockchain technology. Because oftentimes I talk about a directed acyclic graph and I talk about, its energy consumption, I talk about its scalability, I talk about its, improved data storage. People like to say that the benefits are too marginal when compared to, let's say, traditional blockchain technology. But I think quite essentially, again, developers, they may care about that, let's say, hypothetical increase in fundamentals. Because why not? If I was a developer, of course, I would want to choose a place that better fits, let's say, whatever I'm trying to build, like let's say an application or whatnot, right? That is something that I would want to, kind of care about. Now, I get it. As of right now, a lot of developers out there, they might be choosing places like, I would say very established layer 1 blockchains or whatnot just because of the popularity. But I think if I wanted to make a project, or let's say an application, that I want to kind of be there for the long haul, that I want to have like a future 5, 10, 15, whatever years down the line, why wouldn't I choose some place that I think is hypothetically better fundamentally? Now, it's going to depend because some people may not necessarily just view Hedera as being a better place to be because who knows, right? It's all subjective, at least personally in my opinion. But then at the same time, this is something that I wouldn't mind choosing, if that makes sense. However, even besides all that, some people like to complain, despite all this, despite, all this kind of Hedera's governing council and how allegedly, we take a look at it does include something like Google, something like LG, something like Mondelez, which is, their brands do include Oreo and Cliff, like the Cliff Bar. They say despite all this, they like to say, but then take a look at kind of the projects. Because, for instance, we take a look at Saucer Swap, which is a decentralized exchange on Hedera. That's not more popular than like Uniswap, PancakeSwap. It's not more popular than like Joe or like Pangolin. Some people would argue that, and I'll agree with that. And I think that when it comes to these retail sort of orientated projects on Hedera, it really hasn't gained that sort of attention. But then I kind of take a look at it is that, sure, Hedera might not have the most hype, but then in terms of the quality of the fundamentals, I do like it because Hedera's native services can reliably scale up to 10,000 transactions per second and even beyond. Allegedly as well, Hedera per transaction on average consumes less energy than Ethereum, Avalanche. We take a look at BNB Chain, Solana, and many others. So I kind of find it very impressive, at least on paper. It doesn't guarantee that it's going to have good adoption because who knows? It doesn't always necessarily mean that good fundamentals equals good adoption because in some cases we have seen that to not be the case. But even despite all that, I'm still very excited when it comes to Hedera because when it comes to HBAR, I like the exchange listings, I like the community, and also I like the pretty good exposure. And I think stuff like this really kind of solidifies Hedera again as being as one of those premier projects. Sure, Hedera right now is overtaken, at least again, when it comes to this chart I was talking about in terms of activity amongst all layer 1s, in terms of core protocol developers. Again, it is overtaken by Ethereum, which is expected, right? I mean, Ethereum is very massive. So I kind of don't view this as sort of a bad thing. I kind of view this as an exciting thing because, again, Hedera is still top 3. That is very impressive. But the way you take a look at it is that what I find even more fascinating is that when we take a look at Chainlink, it was ranked top 3 in core developer activity since February, of course, of this year. So it was there for quite a while. Then it got overtaken by Hedera. Now Chainlink is number 4. That is very impressive, actually. Chainlink is such a massive project, right? Way more recognition than Hedera, way more fans, way more attention. But then Hedera is able to do that? This is what I like. I'm very excited when it comes to Hedera. And H-bar at the price of $3, that still wouldn't surprise me whatsoever because I feel like, sure, H-bar has had a pretty big pullback, and we do see a lot of alts out there have a slight recovery, but still, we have to take a look at it. H-bar, $3, still around a 20x from here. Market cap, considering current circulating supply, around $127 billion. I get it, it's still a ways away. But then the way I take a look at it is that even like, a dollar is like around a 6x from here. I mean, it's kind of crazy to think about because, could Bitcoin do around a 6x in the next 6 to 10 months? Hypothetically, I think that's highly unrealistic. So again, H-bar at the price of $1, right? Around a 6x. $3, around a 19x, give or take. I mean, I'm not saying that I'm only holding H-bar, but Bitcoin or H-bar, hypothetically, I would rather choose H-bar for me. This is kind of like my mentality when it comes to this. And I'm still going to stay patient because it's a waiting game. I mean, the market's going to wake up when it wants to wake up. I cannot demand it to do anything. It's not going to listen to me. I can only just do what, things that are within my control, not things that are beyond my control. So I'm just going to stay patient, hold, and literally that's it. And feel free to subscribe. If you enjoyed this video, I would greatly appreciate it. It's been Lee the Captain. I'll catch you all in the next one. I'm out. Peace. Bye.